You know what? I go by Robbie. Let's keep this a bit less formal. Anyway, as you all know, I'm the creator of the Leo board, and this is the first video segment that is going to be a little bit short on TikTok. I'm going to be posting shorter videos on TikTok and Instagram. Then my longer length videos will be posted on my website, www.theleoboard.com. The link is in my bio. And if you click on the Learn button there, you'll see surgery primer, and there'll be a whole syllabus with videos listed there I'll put out throughout the coming months. And we'll be following along with this book, Suture Like a Surgeon, written by Dr. Maston Bjork, which I probably messed up his name, but he wrote a really good book. I'll be adding a few things to it, but it has a lot of nice little diagrams in it that we'll be following along with to keep us on track and structured as I learn, and you will hopefully benefit from the things that I'm sharing. Okay, so first video that I want to get into is just a kind of overview of what I think you'll be needing throughout the course and what I think we should be invested in, not invested in, etc. So I have a list here on my whiteboard. My new whiteboard is so exciting, right? Like a nerd. Anyway, so I'm just gonna run through those real quick, and then I'll explain why I think they're important. All right. So the first thing you're gonna need is an actual board. And I think it's important to invest in a board because yes, you can tie on everything as you should. You know, when I was a med student, we were tying on our jackets, tying on your scrub string, your scrub pants. We tied everything. But it's nice to have just one dedicated practice area, okay? So I would recommend it needs to have two capabilities, one for knot tying and one for suturing, okay? So you can do this where you can buy two separate ones apart, or you can buy them together, which is what I tried to make as one compact thing, which shameless plug for mine because I think it's awesome, is the Leo board. So this board I've created to have a tying section and a suturing attachment. So the tying section, the things you want to look for in terms of trying to find a knot tying board is you need to have a couple sites, right? So one is going to be just for an arch or something hook that lets you just practice over and over and over again. You need something that's going to allow you to practice tying in tight, deep spaces. And then you need something that allows you to tie against resistance, okay? And there's a lot of different options out there, but mine is pretty compact. It's also very heavy. It's like over 2 pounds, so it's not gonna move around when you're practicing. If you hear that thump, that's the board. And then also on my boards, I have a suture attachment, where it has a magnetic end and you have a bunch of different attachments that just attach into the board like so. And these attachments I made to help you as you progress throughout your career. And I'm working on a bunch of other attachments, not even just for medicine, but also for dentistry as well, just with specific skills in mind. But you don't have to buy one that attaches to your board. They have them, like the Amazon ones are just fine. I'm not gonna lie, they're okay. The problem with them is that they're really flip-floppy. So when you're practice tying, like they will fly up and move around. And so I would invest in one that somehow attaches to something. It's just gonna make it easier. It makes you be able to practice when you're doing your throws to just be that much more accurate. All right, it would not be fair if I did not show other boards as well. I picked this one up on Amazon, something called Artesian Med. It was one of their best sellers. It's actually not that bad, right? It has suction cups on the end, which works really well on surfaces like glass and some types of ceramic, but other surfaces, it's just gonna move around, which when I was a general surgery intern, we used to have to practice tying on a soda can. So I guess if you're trying to do that, that will work. But if you're just generally practicing, it might get a little annoying, right? So same setup as my boards. It has a little hook, it has a deep space part, it has tying against resistance. Their resistance though isn't really resistant. You can tension it a little bit, but it's still really flip-floppy. And the other problem is that if this dries out, this is very much kind of similar to what I used when I was in med school, just not quite as good as Ethicon boards. But if this dries out, you have to buy a whole new setup. I created mine to where it has a replaceable size 60 rubber band, which you can get a whole box of on Amazon. So when you accidentally cut this, or you've already used it and you don't want to have to go through and cut out the sutures, you can just take the rubber band off and throw it away. You can get a box of like hundreds of these for like $10 on Amazon. So just a small plug, my Leo boards, I have them all on sale. They're 30% off on my entire website through July 1, which I did because I know all of the new interns that are incoming, starting their wonderful journey that we call surgery, might be interested in them. So I decided to try to extend that discount. So there you have it. You go to www.leoboard.com, and that is the last commercial I promise I'm gonna have for the Leo board. All right, so next thing up is suture. Suture and a cord, right? So what I would recommend, especially when you're starting out, is to get something that has two colors and make it a thicker cord, because this allows you to practice something over and over again. I make these myself. I've not found practice cords like this, so that's why I make them. But you want to find them with two different colors. That way, when you're practicing your tying, you can start to see how the two ends interact with each other. So you can start to build up your braid, like your braid and your knots. You can make sure that they're square and you can actually see it happening. And then on top of that, you can easily take it apart and you can keep practicing over and over. Because when you progress to suture, which let me talk about now, is once you finish tying it, it's pretty much done, right? You gotta cut it and you gotta move on. And as a medical student, I never bought suture. And the secret to doing that is to become good friends with your scrub tech, best buds with your circulator nurse, and really honestly, when you're on your surgery rotation, gyne rotation, any rotation you're in the OR, just get to know everyone. Just be friendly, like just be normal. Like don't be weird, just be normal and friendly and genuine. And genuinely interested, and they will give you a bunch of free stuff. So like this is the first time I've ever bought a suture box, and I will tell you it's not the same caliber as what you will get from the hospital. But it will get the job done to where you can just kind of practice your tying and so forth. And what you want to do is you want to get a variety of suture. Let me show you that here. So you want to get different sizes. So like you can see these numbers 2030, and we'll go over what all of that means, don't worry. But you want to get different sizes from 0 all the way up to like 40, and then you want to get different types. So nylon, Prolene, so that way you can, because each one when you're tying or suturing has a little bit different technique, especially the number of throws that you're throwing at the end to create your knot. It's going to be different needle sizes. We'll talk about the needles. We'll go into all of that, but you should also get some different needle sizes too. That's why I'm saying it's helpful when you're in cases and you're seeing what they're using, just try to latch on and get those. But you can buy them. So different types of these, like the ones from Amazon, I've never seen a 4.0 quite like this. It's almost like fishing wire. So it's just not going to be the same. And like you can see here on an Ethicon suture, like the needle is so much better. It's so much more sturdy. When you attach it to a needle holder, it's not going to move around everywhere. And then the suture filament itself just feels luxurious. So try to get it from the hospital. If you can't, then you want to just buy it, and you can buy it. But anyway, so that's a suture. Get a variety, okay? Next thing, so the only other thing I would buy besides a suture and knot tying board would be a needle driver. This is like the one big investment that I would make. These are not expensive, okay? I got this guy on Amazon. This is a really nice one with the gold ends on it. It's like tungsten, I think. But I'll put a link to this one. I get no royalties from this, nor the book or anything from them. But I wish I did though. But this I would highly recommend doing, because you want to get used to a couple techniques that will be easier to do with an actually good quality needle driver. And basically, so like when you're on TikTok or on Instagram, you'll see a bunch of people putting their fingers with holes and they're suturing. Like, no. That's very rookie. You want to get to the point where either it's just like one finger inside and you can open and close it, or we do what we call palming, where you're just literally just opening it with no fingers and closing it with no fingers, right? And that gives you so much more control. It's going to make you look like a pro when you show up to your cases. It gives you a lot more dexterity, especially when you're working in a tight space. Like say you have a scrub tech over here, or you have anesthesia like over here, the curtain over here, and the attending's like sitting over looking at you, and they're like, "Come on, go faster," and you're like, "I can't because my finger's on here, and I have to like move and do all this weird stuff." But when you can actually just like palm it and hold it, like when you put the needle on, you can put your finger here and you have so much more control. It becomes less here and just more like here. You can see how easily and more ergonomic it is on your wrist, and you have so much more downward pressure control, rotational control as you enter and exit the tissue. So I would highly recommend this. You can get, you know, the kits on Amazon and so forth. I can guarantee you the quality is just not going to be the same. Those kits you get like, you know, a dozen needle drivers, a dozen pickups for like 20 bucks. It's not going to be nearly as good as if you just invest in one good needle driver, one good set of pickups. Like it'll be so much better. I mean, you know, these are effective. You can get them from just a little suture kit from the hospital, but like this is your career. So I would recommend investing like so. The next big thing would be pickups. So these come in a lot of different shapes and sizes and forms, but really it just boils down to like two main things, right? There's teeth and no teeth. So smooth and rat tooth. So again, these are from a little kit, very rinky dink. Would not recommend going with something like this, because when you go to pick up the needle out of a suture, like you can see it's very hard. There's no like pressure on this. It's hard to put pressure on the needle, and it's just going to move around, and it's just not great. So I would recommend investing in something with either a rat tooth, and that way you can actually hold the needle in place, and it's just a lot more sturdy. You can see that like it gives you just more pressure, and you can control it more, especially when you're entering and holding it when you come to the tissue. And you can get, there's a couple different types, right? There's Adsons. When I was on my plastic surgery rotation, there's Adson Brown, which is super, super nice. I really like that one. And then you can also get some like thinner ones or heavier ones like Gerald's or something like that, or heavy pickups. But I'll put links to all that onto the website for the long form video. So those are pickups. And then the next thing that you need, which you can get from, this one you can get from anywhere, a suture removal kit from work or whatever, are scissors. So different types, right? You can get just a regular straight scissor. These are all effective. Or you can get the ones from the suture kits that have a little scooped end. There's the camera, scooped end on this end. And the reason why I like these, and if you can find these, is because when you're practicing your suturing, like you don't want to have, the scooped end is nice because the straights you're at risk of like cutting into the silicone, but these you can scoop underneath your knot and then clip it, and preserves the silicone surface, I think, a bit better. So I would recommend getting something like that, but you can use whatever, anything. And the last thing would be a scalpel, which you really don't need to get at this point, but at some point though, you will be starting to make incisions on the stuff, whether it be fruit. Like I have a membrane attachment for my board as well. So if you're practicing cutting a glove or something like that, you do not need to buy one of these. You can get these from the supply room in your hospital, okay? So that's about it for the things that you need. Just to kind of recap, I would highly recommend getting a dedicated tying board and suturing pad. I highly recommend just getting all in one because it just cuts down on clutter and your space and all of that. Just invest in a good quality one. Mine are on sale. They're 30% off till July 1. And then also investing in a needle driver, because we're gonna go over all this, but being able to palm is very, very good technique to have, okay? All right, so stay tuned for many more videos to come in the coming months. They're all listed on my website, theleoboard.com, under the Learn tab. You'll see the suture, knot tying, suturing primer course. And I have a whole syllabus of where I'm gonna be putting long form videos with narratives and diagrams and all that jazz. So we're gonna go in deep, okay? Hope you're excited. Take care.